Hey everybody, welcome to the Game Birds. I'm Alice.
And I'm Bree.
And today we are talking about Horticular. That's how I say it. Bree, what do you think this game is pronounced like?
Honestly, I feel like, because it's from the word horticulture, I assume. So I feel like I want to start to say that, but like it's cut off. So I was pronouncing horticular. So I feel very validated that you said the same thing. So horticular it is from our perspective.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to be honest then, because for the longest time in my head, I have been pronouncing this horticultular.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I'm really not sure. I just feel like horticular just like rolls off the tongue a little smoother.
I think it is horticular, but like I just kind of want it to be something that's like more like closer to horticultural, but then I can't do it. You know?
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I can't make it work in my mouth. So I'm like, horticular is just like, yeah. And it makes me think of reticulating splines. So I feel like,
Whoa. Girl, I brought up reticulating splines at work, I think like a couple months ago, and no one had any idea what I was talking about.
Oh, no.
I just and then trying to explain it, I was like, okay, listen, if you've played The Sims.
How could you?
If you played any Maxis game.
Well, I appreciate your appreciation because I'm like, I think that's a good bit forever.
Thank you. Okay, so we're not talking about Sims today, even though we love Maxis games, but this is a simulation game, and it's a gardening simulation game that's single player. Honestly, it was just a random thing on Steam that looked cool to me. I love simulation games. Bree and I have a long history with simulation games. So I'm going to actually throw it over to you, Bree. What were your first impressions?
I feel like the way that you propose this game to me, you're like, it's like Sim Park, which is a game that we played growing up that we adored. We played the hell out of that game. I don't even know how familiar people are with it, but it was just like the park version of all the Sim games. And you had like this nature park and you had to have certain bushes and things like that to attract certain animals, and certain animals wouldn't interact well. And you also had different calamities that would happen like kudzu and things like that you had to deal with in your little park. So I feel like that is how you pitched it to me. It very much immediately reminded me of Viva Pinata. So very similar vibes where you're creating this little space and trying to get things together in there. And truth be told, I feel like my first experience with this game was not necessarily a positive one. I played relaxing mode, which I think is a bad way to start this game.
No. Oh, no.
Yes, exactly. So I played relaxing mode for like an hour and I'm like, oh my God, I hate this game. I feel like it has all the elements of a game that I would absolutely love. Viva Pinata, Trouble in Paradise is like one of my favorite games of all time. If it wasn't like exclusively on Xbox, I would play it all the damn time.
Don't even get me started.
I know.
The GitHub rabbit holes of trying to get freaking Viva Pinata to work on my goddamn computer.
Oh my God. I know that it's like my deepest heartbreak to this day because I adore that game. And I feel like that game is like the modern pinnacle of that kind of simulation where you have these just cute little pinatas in your garden and you just do certain things to get them in your garden and you have to fight off some baddies that come by.
And there's a lot of planting involved. I think all of these games, Sim Park, Horticular, Viva Pinata, like you're putting together lots of plants or trees and like you're creating a garden. And it's kind of the process of that creativity that attracts things to your garden. They don't punish you too hard necessarily. Sim Park is probably the hardest of the ones we're talking about because it's older and it's by the same people who made SimCity. So the natural disasters and things could really screw things up if you're not careful. But for the most part, these games are simulation games where you have a lot of creative freedom. Maybe you have a bit of an economy. You do fun stuff and fun stuff shows up.
Exactly. Yeah, I would not really categorize this game as challenging. These types of games, to your point, I don't think are meant to be super challenging. This is a very like chill, you could just have cute animals and pretty plants in your garden. And that's like the whole goal. But again, playing relaxing mode seemed like the right choice for me only because I was like, okay, lots going on right now. I don't want to like invest too much in this. I just want to have a good time. Unfortunately, I found that the game progressed a lot slower in relaxing mode. That is clearly a mode for somebody who has maybe played this game multiple times and is looking for more of a sandbox mode, although they actually have a separate sandbox mode as well. I did switch to balanced after an hour of playing because I was like, you know what? This must be on me. I'm going to give this another shot. I did play balanced mode for about 3 hours straight, and let me tell you, much better experience. So if you are playing this game for the first time, I would strongly suggest balanced. I think that's how this game is intended to be played the first time.
What do you feel like was the biggest difference in your mind between that switch?
Honestly, this may just be my experience / possibly me not paying 100% attention to the game. I just felt like I was slogging through the days. I had no money to buy anything. I wasn't really sure what my objective was. So I would do like one or two things in the day. I would buy a couple things, immediately run out of money, and then I would just have to sit there and wait for the rest of the day to go by before I could do anything meaningful. That was my experience playing relaxing mode, because I was just like, okay, well, I can't do anything. I'm just sitting here being bored. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm like, these animals are coming to my garden. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with them. I got very frustrated very quickly in that mode. Switching to balance mode, I felt like the tasks and the story beats were coming in a lot more frequently, so that I had something actively to do all the time, and also different options on what to do. There are story beats, there are tasks, there are challenges. So there's a lot of different things you could do at any given time. And I feel like in the balance mode, I was given a lot more of that and a lot more to work with, where I had money, I was able to get money consistently, and I was able to just progress the game a little more naturally.
Yeah, it sounds like the economy is just like not there in the relaxing mode. In the normal mode, there are these little dudes who kind of come on certain nights and try to like fuck shit up in your garden. Did those guys appear in the relaxing mode?
They did, but definitely less frequently. So I think they only appeared once in my other playthrough.
Those little guys that come attack you, like it's not difficult to get rid of them. You even can click on a button. It takes you directly straight to where they are around the map as they spawn. Even your little gardener friends that you can put into your garden, they help fight them as well. So I wouldn't say it's something that felt like, oh my God, this is so hard. I can't believe all this wave of enemies is coming to my garden. Like, to be honest, like if you accidentally ignored it for a minute, it's really easy to bounce back. This game just does not punish you all that hard. Actually, the economy being slow in certain points is the part that is the most punishing. If anything, something I wish I knew when I started playing was just like, oh no, just plant. Just like all the cheap, almost free flowers, like plant them everywhere. You can remove them later. It's fine. Like just generate some quick income. Eventually you start getting plants that, like, even though they're more expensive, they generate exponentially more income than the original plants.
There is like a story to the game. There is like an overarching story. I think you could probably play this game without interacting with it too much. But the general gist is that you were found in the universe and they asked you to bring life back to this garden. Their previous gardener mysteriously disappeared and they've been looking for somebody to bring this garden back to life. This organization called the Council is there to kind of direct you along the way. They send you letters pretty much daily, sometimes multiple times a day, as tutorials for different things you could do. The idea is that you are planting different plants. There's ponds, there's streams, there's different terrain. And what we're trying to do is gather more animals and life to the garden.
So the first animal you always start off with is a bumblebee. Just a few flowers in a certain area, a bumblebee habitat will spawn there. And notably, there's some like kind of logic puzzleness to it, where in this game, there's sort of like a square boundary for the animal habitat that's there. And the center where the animal habitat is, like you can only have one animal in that square. So it's a grid-based isometric system. So the idea is like, okay, like at this location, this is a bumblebee habitat. One square over is an overlapping kind of fox habitat. This square over is this habitat. There could be overlapping, but you still can only have a certain amount of habitats in a given area.
Yes, honestly, this is where I found the most challenge. I intend to keep playing this game, but I feel like this is where I still need to learn a bit about habitats, because I feel like I would get a little overzealous about like planting certain things. And there were so many times where like I would have goldfish, like 3 goldfish living in this pond. And I was like, oh, there are frogs here. I better make some more space for these frogs to come in. And then instantly I did something wrong and I made all the goldfish super unhappy. And I didn't know what I did because I did it so quickly. So you really have to be strategic about like how you make these little habitats for them, because you can mess up a habitat very quickly and upset all of your creatures. And then they will leave if they're upset.
I think that was the most frustrating part for me as well. It took me a while to understand how the habitats worked. Frogs, turtles, and goldfish, oh my God. What a pain in the ass. And I just think this game doesn't do a good enough job of warning you or kind of like really hinting like you're about to do something that's going to make something else angry. It kind of just like tells you after the fact and kind of relies on you either memorizing or having, like I ended up writing, I can literally see it. I still have a post-it note that's like shark, crab, koi, like, and like, oh, don't put an owl over here. Don't put a frog over here. Like I have like a little chart because I was trying to create a certain set of habitats to like meet a challenge. I do think this game could use a little bit of user experience enhancements in terms of just like making it a little bit easier for you to understand what you're about to do or what might happen if you do put that frog there or do move these types of items. Other than that, like once I did get the hang of it though, I did like the puzzle of it all. I did think once I was having to figure out like, okay, how am I gonna get a shark here? Like I thought that was kind of fun and challenging. It kind of punishes you in a not very fun way when you make a mistake and move the wrong plant.
I agree. That's honestly one of my biggest criticisms of this game, just because and again, the first hour I played this in the relaxing mode, like that was so confusing to me. I had no idea what was going on. That's why I was like, okay, maybe this is my fault. And when I went into balance mode, it was a little more obvious, but at the same time, I hate to keep making this comparison, but I feel like this is just naturally the closest game to this in my knowledge anyways. In Viva Pinata, I feel like there's very clear markers of like this Pinata needs these exact things and to not be near this thing. In this game, I felt it was a little more loosey-goosey on exactly how many things I need. And to your point, it was very easy to throw off that balance. And once the balance is thrown off, it was kind of hard to correct it, especially when you're kind of just going through and planting a lot of things and trying to fill the garden. Again, you make a mistake and you're like, shit, I don't even know which thing it was. I would appreciate a little more hand-holding in the beginning, like a little letter that said, oh, whoops, you shouldn't have put that hosta there because this animal doesn't like that. I would have liked a little more, I hate to use the term hand-holding, but definitely some more direction just so that you don't continuously make the mistake and then you get kind of frustrated because you're like, okay, everyone's unhappy all the time. What do I do?
No, I agree. Good thing it doesn't punish you too hard in this game. Like even if you do move something and an animal's mad, they're not going to leave instantly. Like there's some time around for you to try to fix it. I do think having to master the animal to understand exactly how many things you need of each item, it's just a little bit too high of a bar. Because you do eventually get like, oh, they need exactly 3 water tiles and they need exactly 4 sand or like whatever that is. That just doesn't happen until you've made a ton of their habitats before and you've like gotten a certain amount of them to come to your garden already. And by that point, I've already kind of sussed it out through trial and error. And I only want to trial and error things like so many times in a row. I honestly think it should unlock that after you've done it once or twice and not 6 times.
Oh, 100%. I very quickly became a master of goldfish. I had like nothing but goldfish because I was like, I understand goldfish. But then when frogs were introduced, I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to get this frog. And there's also a task that requires me to have 5 frogs to progress. That's one of the ones that I messed up very instantly because I think goldfish and frogs have a hard time existing in the same habitat. So I kept messing it up and all of my frogs left. And I was just so sad. I was like, the frogs are unhappy. I'm unhappy. I hate this.
Aww. I did end up playing this game for over 20 hours. I did end up beating the story. I've been a little bit negative, I think, so far, but I did end up overall really enjoying this game, really trying to do it from start to finish. Did have some frustrations with some of the animal habitats, and it honestly just took me a little bit too long, I think, for me to understand how it worked. Like, I think it was just not clear. Luckily, I didn't get punished hard enough for me to quit, but I think there's a little bit of just like, I thought this game was fun enough once I got over the hump of understanding what the heck was happening. And I do think really cute isometric pixel graphics, loved all the different animals, like getting to have like fennec foxes and really cool animals, especially later in the game. I was a beetle master. I had beetles everywhere. I was just like a bug girl. Like I was having so much fun just having a million beetle habitats. So I ended up really enjoying it and beating it. I actually was a little bit skeptical. Like either Brie is going to end up getting past that hump and liking this, or you're going to end up being really frustrated. And the relaxing mode seems to have set you up for not the ultimate experience here.
I feel like this game definitely has all the elements of a game that I would like. It's kind of funny because I feel like I was thinking back to like our Minami Lane review where that game was so simplistic that you ended up not liking it. And you're like, I wish this game had a little bit more. And I feel like Horticular is kind of taking it the other way, where I feel like for a kind of chill, relaxing game, some of these elements are a little too frustrating to have it be like an absolute like chill game that I go to every time. I was also slightly overwhelmed by just the level of mechanics in this game, even outside of building habitats. There's different forms of currency. There's nectar that you have to gather, and only certain people take nectar so that you can buy certain items for the whole garden. There's different weather things that happen. There are thunder. I was getting nothing but thunderstorms and earthquakes in my playthrough. And I was just like, can I just have a day where nothing happens? That would be so great. It wasn't terrible. Like, I do kind of like that it did throw different challenges at you regularly. It did keep what could be a very mundane play through a little more interesting, a little more varied. I also really like the inclusion of the magic gloves. I've never seen that in a game like this before. I truly have the power to heal my plants when they're dying, heal my animals when they're sick, banish any baddies that come into my garden. I thought that was a very fun mechanic, but it did take me a minute to understand like what I needed to do because it does throw a lot of different mechanics at you right away. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It is a lot though.
I think there was maybe too many currencies in this game. Like, I just think they could have simplified it a little bit, especially since it's not like this is a microtransaction mobile game where they're trying to trick you into all these conversions that you have to do and then like sell you into buying gems versus coins. I understand that some of the currencies have you earn them in different ways and they have different functions when you buy stuff, but I guess I just would have preferred, like, instead of making it so there's multiple currencies, you just scale. The nectar part kind of confused me at the beginning because I just, like, why are there 3 types? Like, why? I know you earn them in different ways, but it just kind of seemed arbitrary. And I didn't also understand that I was spending nectar when I was doing spells for the longest time. Like, I just did not understand that.
That was not clear to me at all until I'm like, wait, where is all my nectar? Like, I was going to go to Corbett and see if I could, buy something, but my nectar's gone. For this kind of game, I'm looking for a certain level of challenge and a certain level of simplicity. And I feel like this is kind of edging toward challenge just for challenge's sake, difficulty just for difficulty's sake, rather. I still enjoyed it for the most part. Having the neurodivergent brain, I do kind of like that there are so many different paths that I could take. I like that there were tasks that I can kind of complete if I really don't think I could do the challenges at the time. I do also like that I think every like 6 days or so, or every X amount of days, there's like a Horticular day and you get like little awards for certain things. So that was always fun.
I love that so much.
I like that a lot, especially a little curtain coming down and it gives you little awards. Like it's a little mini award show each time. I thought that was actually very, very adorable. And that did kind of make it a little more worth it, especially if I had a couple frustrating days. I was like, okay, I actually did make some good progress and now I could do some leveling up of certain things. And I did like that a lot.
Yeah, this game strikes me as like this developer had so many ideas and some of them were implemented more successfully than others. I do think overall, again, I thought this was still a successful game and I really enjoyed it. But I think it's just like, I wish this had another round of polish and I would love it.
Given the style that it is, because like the graphics are so like 8-bit and tiny, there was a couple times where I had a hard time differentiating where the nectar was because it would be like buried in the plants and I couldn't actually see it. Very similar when plants were starting to decay. They just kind of dim a little bit when they're starting to die. And depending on the fauna and plants around it, I just feel like I couldn't always tell.
Bree, can I ask you, how many keepers, you can put little gnome guys in your garden. How many keepers did you have in your garden?
I had 3, I think. Should I have had more keepers?
Yeah, the trick to this game, honestly, because, I never picked up my own nectar and I only in emergency ever had to heal a plant. And that really is because I had keepers at almost 100% coverage on the entire map. And there is like a little icon you can press that shows you like green where the keepers can reach and red where there's no keepers. It's a little hidden in the menu, but you can like turn it on and off to kind of see like the habitats and where your keepers can go. And the keepers will take care of those things for you. So,
okay. Well, that's good to know because that sounds like an easy fix on my part. That I think I was concerned that like their upkeep, so to speak, would be like too much to have that much. And I didn't have a lot of land to cover. So I was like, I don't know if I need that many, but that is good to know. Maybe that would solve a bulk of my problems with that because I felt like I was spending a lot of time healing plants and things like that just because it was just happening constantly.
Yeah, and then you're spending a lot of nectar to heal the plants. I don't think they spend any nectar when they're doing it.
Well, that's important context. I do appreciate that.
No, I think that's kind of a downside of this game, right? It's like, I can give you some tips and then maybe you'll have a better time. And I almost wish this game was better at explaining itself, right? I had to do a lot of trial and error and figuring that out before I got there. And I have a ton more hours. I have 20 more hours than you do in this game, right?
Yeah, actually almost exactly. Because I played this game for about 4.4 hours. And I will say I was only enjoying it for like the last like 3 or so. So it took me a minute to get into it. I did enjoy this game. To your point, I feel like there is like a little bit more that it needs to be like perfect for me in terms of like something that would regularly go into my rotation. I'm definitely going to continue playing it because I'm very interested in it. And I think it has enough mechanics and enough like to-do lists that like keep me engaged the whole time. The biggest thing for me is like the clarity on how certain habitats exist and how they exist next to each other and how to do that for each creature. I found that was a little bit of a steep curve to kind of traverse by myself. So I would love a little bit more clarity on that. It's very close to being something that I would absolutely love. I do like it a lot. It's just not quite at the love status for me. And it's just those small nitpicks that make it a little off for me.
I think that makes sense. I think this game is one of those things where it's like, if you like gardening and animals and simulation games, this is that game, but it does have a learning curve. And so you have to be willing to either get over the hump of the learning curve, maybe look up some tips. Like there is a little bit there that's a little upfront before you really get the rewards. And I think that's tough in this current game economy where we have thousands of indie games, so many games to play. I think it's worth it if you're willing to put in the time, but I could understand if that's a bit much for some folks.
I think this is definitely on the more challenging side of simulation games. So maybe that's who this is for. Again, I enjoyed it well enough. I thought it was very fun, especially when I got the game to work a little bit better for me playing in balanced mode. And now that I have some fun tips for you, I think that'll make my experience even better. But it did take me a minute to get there. So I don't think this is as plug and play as a lot of these like very chill, relaxing games are.
Well, thanks, Brie. I would say if any of y'all out there have played it or are interested, let us know how you feel in the comments. Don't forget to, of course, follow us on anything that you're listening to us on. That would be super appreciated. And thanks, everyone, for listening so far. Brie, what are we doing next time?
Oh my goodness, Alice, I am so excited because it's the holidays. The holidays are coming up. So I think it's just a natural time to do like an end of year wrap up. So we are going to do our first ever The Birdies, which is going to be our little award show for kind of best in show of everything that we've played, plus a couple additional categories. So I am very excited. That'll be coming up soon.
Ooh, I'm excited. And that'll be the end of our very, very first podcast season. We'll top it off with the awards. Thanks, everyone, for listening. See you next time.
Bye.